I need you to leave right now, sir. The voice of the young sergeant cut through the chilly morning air outside. George's Fort Benning, he was clearly agitated and stood straight and rigid. A thin, elderly man wearing a brown overcoat held a tightly folded American flag to his chest in front of him. His eyes were moist, gentle, and exhausted. The elderly guy muttered, "I don't have much time. I just wanted to leave this in good hands before I go." However, the sergeant remained unflinching. "This is federal land. Unauthorized citizens must obtain permission before entering the main gate." Final caution. The elderly man nodded slowly as he looked down. He turned and could hardly get his boots off the ground. A group of recruits stood silently behind him. "Isn't that?" mumbled one of them. However, no one responded. William Anders had left Columbus 2 hours earlier on the Greyhound bus. He didn't have a car, a cell phone, or any family left. At the age of 98, he was enjoying life to the fullest. He only had a folded flag that had been sewn in 1944 and a last-ditch desire to restore it to Fort Benning, where it had previously flown above the barracks of the 101st Airborne Division. That banner was more than just fabric. It was a sacrifice of memories and blood that accompanied him during Operation Market Garden. Bastonia and the liberation of a Nazi work camp, however, the regulations didn't give a damn. A guard at the gate reported the issue. An elderly man who claimed to be a veterinarian just arrived. No documents, no identification, attempted to hand over a flag and stated he was dying. Lieutenant Colonel Michael Harris of the U.S. Army examined the surveillance footage inside the control office. He paled after squinting at the figure on TV. Hold on a minute. The name, William Anders, sounded like thunder. General Alan McCaffrey of the U.S. Army, who was temporarily stationed at Fort Benning for a Joint Command Strategy Summit, happened to be passing by and stopped. "Did you mention William Anders, the Bronze Star Silver Star, and Bill Anders, Normandy? Veteran?" The man who, while under fire, dragged 6 paratroopers from a flaming wreck. The ensuing quiet was more audible than any censure. The general said, "Give me his address, now." Bill, however, had returned to his modest rental house on a peaceful Columbus corner. He tried not to think about how terribly he had failed while sitting on the porch with the flag in his lap. What stung more than the rejection was the lack of concern. At 2:41 p.m., the ground started to tremble as the sun slipped behind a cloud. He raised his head. A procession of 4 military vehicles pulled up to his lawn, led by a black sport utility vehicle with 4 stars on the license plate. First to emerge in full uniform was General McCaffrey, followed by a group of soldiers, including the same sergeant from the gate, who was now clearly embarrassed. The general, Mr. Anders, stated, saluting permission to approach Sir Bill, and Bill blinked in shock. "Why are you getting forgotten?" "Not under my supervision," we aired. "Our goal is to fix it." Numerous black and white photographs of young soldiers smiling in foxholes were discovered inside Bill's house. Medals were scattered on a dusty shelf, including a Purple Heart and a Distinguished Service Cross. General McCaffrey, a Belgian Führer, knelt next to him and said, "This flag," taking it gently, "will be flown over the 101st headquarters tomorrow in your honor. After that, we'll place it in the Fort Benning Military Heritage Museum along with your story." Bill's mouth trembled. "Now they're all gone." McCaffrey stated firmly that perhaps if someone recognized us, none of the boys would actually be killed. Due to you, the flag was raised over Fort Benning around 700 hours the following morning. The names of Bill's fallen teammates were read over the base loudspeaker. William Anders was in the front row in a wheelchair, his shoulders straight and his eyes wide, while the new recruits stood in solemn order. 2 weeks later, with the flag folded neatly next to him and draped in a wool army blanket, he passed away quietly. Title 10 of U.S. Code Section 1491, which governs military funeral honors, was followed by the U.S. Army, which honored his interment at Andersonville National Cemetery with a full escort. Therefore, when we neglect our veterans, we lose more than simply individuals. We lose the spirit of sacrifice and the legacy of history. Bill was more than just a man at the gate. He symbolized every veteran who returned home without being honored. All heroes who faded into oblivion but are no longer at his funeral there, was applause, not out of duty but out of respect. With regretful eyes, the same sergeant who had sent him away laid the folded flag on his coffin and muttered, "I'm sorry, sir." A hand was placed on his shoulder by General McCaffrey. "He pardoned you as soon as you arrived." Please let us know where you are watching from in the comments section before we wrap up this story. If this tale resonated with you, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and leave a karma remark below.